Starbucks is done. Switching to coffee number 2 that I just got from 7-Eleven. And I was lucky. Usually these 7-Elevens, they don't even have any public washroom. This one gives me the key, and it's like a real washroom, you know, like individual with where you can wash your hands, you know, like a little room all to yourself. And I ended up here. So today's Saturday, so I'm not working at the rental place. So I got up at 4:45, and it was not very busy. I did, I think, like 4 rides probably. No, I did like 3 with Uber and 1, the worst one, well, relative. So I was in the south, good area, actually near the Chinook Center, you know, like there's lots of houses there. There's, of course, restaurants, but it was too early yet. Sorry, just missed the offer from Lyft. By the time I was looking at kilometers and how much it pays, like $13. Customer is 1.5 kilometers away, and then you drive 12 kilometers, but actually you drive south, which is good. Southern Calgary is always better. But so and the last one, no, the only one I did with Lyft was like, I don't know why I clicked on it. Like I drop off a lady near the not too far from Chinook Center, so I thought, okay, I'll go there and just wait. And as soon as I started driving, Lyft gives me something like I'm in the middle of the road, but you know, you only have like 15 seconds to decide. And somehow I missed the first line where it says 5 kilometers away, and I clicked it because it was like $13, total kilometers 12, but somehow I didn't, you know, look how far the guy was. Like normally, and that's the problem with Lyft, is that quite often rides are very far, you know, because they don't have enough cars. Because most people, you know, most drivers don't bother getting a Lyft license because it's cheap. It's way cheaper than Uber, so you don't make as much money, and rides are, you know, much fewer rides. And so I clicked on this one, and then I see it says 5 kilometers away. Holy moly. So I drove 5 kilometers. And Lyft versus Uber allows customer to make you wait 5 minutes. And it says wait for 4 minutes, 59 seconds. And the guy kept me there for like 4 minutes. Finally runs out. He says, oh, I'm sorry. I'm like, so I drove 5 kilometers, right? And then the guy didn't have enough time to get ready, you know, I'm coming from far, right? And he made me wait, and I'm like, holy. And then I look where we're going to the industrial area southeast of Calgary, where there's no houses there, there's nothing. You pretty much close to the bypass 201. It's all industrial. So the guy was going to work, and I'm like, man, so, you know, I cannot get rides from there. Well, at least he gave me $4. He gave me a tip, $4, because he liked my car. He was asking me questions. Oh, is this a Trailhawk? I said, I don't think the Durango comes in a Trailhawk version. Maybe I'm wrong, but I said I have a Jeep Compass, which is actually Trailhawk Elite. And so, hold on, let me show you. And so I was sitting there and decided to get closer to Barlow Trail. And that's where I found 7-Eleven. Used the washroom, bought some coffee and some protein snack. And then I decided to jump on Highway 2, go north towards 17th Avenue or International Avenue. Then I remember this little gem, you know. I was just turning over there, thinking I should get on the freeway, and then I realized, wait a second, I know this 26th Street, and you have these areas over here where you can, you know, sit, nobody bothers you, and you can have these gorgeous views of downtown. And there's mountains in the distance there, you know, so that's west. Probably should have brought my bike with me, but because you see there's a bike pathway here. But it's cold, it's freezing. Well, actually it's hold on. Sorry, that was Lyft again. I don't know, Uber is dead for some reason at this hour. But Lyft already offered me 2, and probably I should have taken this one, but it's like $9. The customer is 2 kilometers away, and then you drive 7 kilometers. But I was just looking which area I would end in after dropping off the passenger, and by the time I was trying to find that screen, because it was only showing me where the customer was, it didn't show me where I was going, and it was a timeout. So it's so fast, 15 seconds, and there's a slider at the bottom that, moving. But yeah, I like this. Instead of sitting somewhere near a warehouse, I'd rather look at mountains and the downtown. And yeah, tomorrow it's gonna be much colder. It's gonna be -4 Celsius, which is what, like 27 F, 26 F. And they promised flurries in the evening, but just a brief one. But still, and then Sunday I think we can. So basically, this is it. So the summer is over, even the fall is over, because it's end of no, what is this? Middle of October. Okay, no, the fall is not over yet, because we might get some all the way till Christmas. We can get some warm weather. Usually, yeah, end of December, that's when things start getting real ugly. But so the sun is rising behind me, and so I see reflection, sun, the light reflection on the buildings. And it's funny that they mentioned that they will be building 2 more towers in downtown, but nothing is happening. That I don't see any construction of some major buildings. The downtown still looks the same as it looked 3 years ago when I moved here. And I'm driving my Durango today. Man, what a car. I love it. No rental customers because of my custom pricing, because like I mentioned, so I don't want to give it away for free pretty much. And I started driving it, and I cleaned it up, right? And I started driving. I was afraid the guy hit some potholes and the alignment will be out. No, the alignment is good. The car drives perfect. And this last guy who gave me a tip, I gave him a quick demonstration, because he was asking me what kind of engine it has. And I said, I pushed the throttle, like under an overpass, and the car like, just pushes you into the seat. I said, that's what kind of engine it has. It says I said it's a V8. So I'm gonna stay out, but it slowed down so bad. So my goal was to make $200. Usually that's what I do on a Saturday, but since it's so slow now, I don't know. If I have another offer from Lyft, I'll probably should take it, because again, Uber is dead. And you see there, the left side of downtown is all covered in light, like these buildings over here in the middle. And so between downtown and me, where the trees are over there, that's Highway 2. So I'm really close to, like, if I need to get somewhere fast, I can do it. And to my right, if I drive on this over there, there's a road behind those that's 26th Street. And where the building is over there, that's already 17th Avenue, or formerly known as International Avenue. And actually some signs still say International. And so if you take that 17, it'll take you right over there, right to downtown, and it turns into 9th Avenue, which is a very popular destination for tourists. And there's a bunch of restaurants, but it's still too early for restaurants, unless it's all-day breakfast place. Man, just missed a nice ride. Lyft has this thing where they send out an offer to everybody, right? What is it called, match or something, and you have to be quick. And it was not exactly the best rate, but it was not the worst, and it was picking up somewhere in this area, and it was going to Calgary Airport, you know, which is great because now it's 8 o'clock. Now they'll have some planes landing. After 8, that's when you can start getting passengers, you know. So you always have to think ahead, you know, where your next passenger is coming from, and that's what makes this taxi service so much different from food delivery, you know, because food delivery, you're always thinking about, okay, where the restaurants are, you know. And the problem with food delivery and why I'm not doing it anymore is because you go to the restaurant, right? And then, of course, where do you go with your food? You go to a house, or 1 out of 10, you go to a hotel. But basically, the place where you're delivering your load, there's no restaurants, right? So you come to a residential area typically, and so then you have to drive back to the nearest place. So you look on the map, okay, where's the restaurants are, because you're delivering food, right? So they will not give you anything if you're gonna stay in that residential area because you're far from restaurants, you know. So it's always like it can pay better. No, it pays pretty much the same as this, and you can get tips, but usually the pay is very small. Hold on. Well, ended up close to the zoo, and so Lyft can be not that bad, you know, sometimes. So this was 2 kilometers empty. Picked up 2 Japanese ladies, and I don't know, I don't speak Japanese, but I can tell when they speak Japanese. So two young ladies, of course tourists. Picked them up, probably Airbnb, and then it was 7 kilometers to the zoo, which opens at 9, and we were there at 8:30. So they were not in a rush to leave the car because it's chilly outside, only +8. Was it like 48 F? And it was $9 from Lyft, and the ladies gave me $5 tip. You know, this is for you. So thank you. You know, it's my first tip of the day. And so instead of 9, now it's $14. $14 for 2 kilometers empty and 7 kilometers loaded, which is what it should be. You know, it should be like $1.50 per kilometer. You know, that would be nice. Let's say you go 10 kilometers, you get $15. But in reality, it's always Uber. It's more like 10. You would get $10 for 10 kilometers. Lyft, you would get 8. But this time, actually, why it paid same as Uber is because there was a bonus. I look at earnings, and inside that $9, there was a $2 bonus. So otherwise, they would pay 7. You know, because now it's a bonus time. I think it's what they call it, turbo. Lyft calls it turbo. So it gives you a percentage, like can be 10%, 20%, 30%, depending on how busy it is. And so I dropped them off there, and I just went around the big hill, and this is a residential area. So I'm sitting here. So 9th Avenue is on the other side of Memorial Drive, so that's a good area too. So you can jump over there fairly quick. So yeah, so sometimes I'm glad that I have both Uber and Lyft. So right now, for example, both apps are running in the background. So whoever gives me a nice ride first, I take that one and I put the other one on pause, or I turn it off. Like Lyft, you cannot, there's no pause, you have to turn it off. But Uber has a brake button, right? So you click that picture of a mug, and it's not gonna give you any rides. And actually another cool feature with Uber is that, let's say I picked up a ride, but I want to take a break right after. And so while I'm driving with the passenger, I can click that mug logo, and Uber will say, you're going on break after this ride, so no rides will be offered. And so when I drop off the guy or the gal, the screen automatically switches to, you know, where it says resume. Click here to resume, like no rides, you on break. So which is sometimes can be handy, because let's say, because what happens is that if they give you, okay, Uber, or just drop off the guy here, and I see lots of tow trucks, and they all look like quite new, like what the heck? So that's pretty much what I'm driving, right? And then I look here, and it says hiring, AMA. So it's that association. That's like it's a real towing company. See, and it says hiring. Of course they're hiring because nobody wants to do it. It's too cheap. Paid training plus full-time hours plus great benefits. Send a resume to, and there's a email address there. But yeah, this is not good. Yeah, I did this job right when I lived in Ontario, and we did some equipment as well, kind of like what I'm doing now. But I always wanted to do equipment pretty much like all the time, moving machinery and equipment. I didn't want to deal with cars because first off, cars are a typical car has no tie downs. So that's why nowadays they just use the special straps that they put on tires, right? But back then we didn't have those special straps, and you would crawl underneath the car because there's a couple of hooks that you have to use, like a special hook, like a very thin hook. There's a couple of like tiny holes in the front, in the back for this special hook, and cars are very low, right? And I remember I was almost crying because it was winter, and this guy's car, I still remember, this was what, like 97, imagine, it's like almost 30 years ago, right? Like 28 years ago. No, it was probably 2000. Yeah, so 25 years ago. And the guy's car died, and it was like winter, but it was warm, so the snow started melting, and he's like sitting in the middle of the puddle. And it was an old Ford Crown Vic. I still remember, and because it was so bad, I had to go in the water, crawl underneath to hook up those, hooks to tow it, because you don't want to rip off the bumper, like where do you hook up your winch? Yeah, because the car was dead, and I had a 5-ton tow truck, and so I backed to it, put my bed in the front, but the car's dead, so you have to winch it up. And yeah, I think couple of times at first when I didn't have any experience, I damaged something. I damaged the bumper or something. So and then sometimes people would have those crazy lowered cars. Trucks usually they try to make them higher, right? They put special springs, but cars, some of these guys, they enjoy lowering them, and that's a real nightmare for a tow truck operator, because, and I remember I was picking up one of these fancy lowered cars, and these guys are walking around with cameras. Well, back then cell phones already had video, right, and pictures, and they were walking around as I'm trying to drag this thing because it was dead, so I had to hook up my winch. And of course the bumper, when the car approaches the deck, the bumper would hit the deck unless you put something under the wheels, like you need to carry some wood boards or some kind of a ramp, but it's too steep even for a normal car. For a normal car it's okay, but for a lowered car you cannot just drag it up without some special setup, And so these guys were walking around with cameras, taking pictures, waiting for me to damage the car, because sometimes they, I suspect some of them, they even have like a scam going where they call a tow truck hoping that the guy would damage the car, and they would charge the towing company a lot of money, And so that's why cars are a nightmare to deal with. Difficult to hook up. Some of them are lowered, and the worst part is back then, nowadays it's totally different. Nowadays, at least here, if a guy broke down on the side of the freeway, they always send 2 trucks now. One truck is just serves as a warning device, so to speak, and the driver stands with a slow down sign, right? Because you're supposed to not to exceed 60 kilometers an hour when you pass vehicles with flashing lights. And so one of them just acts as a barrier so that you don't hit the first guy. And actually the first guy is doing the job, where he's, you know, dragging that car on the deck, or I don't think they allow changing tires, but before they would send you to the, you know, on the highway, a real highway, which I call a freeway, but most Americans say highway. Basically where people fly by at, you know, 200 kilometers an hour, and you on the shoulder changing the tire. So dangerous, low pay, especially these like these guys. They get so busy, this CIA or MAA, whatever. They get so busy that they send these orders to other towing companies. And so whenever I would see this CIA, usually it was super cheap, and it involved something dangerous that I'm guessing they didn't want to do, you know. And so I hated the CIA orders from these guys. Actually, yeah, that's why they're big, because that's the actual company then, and then they dole out when they get too busy. They send out requests to small towing companies, you know. I think we don't use these guys. So basically they deal only with cars. They don't do equipment, probably maybe once in a blue moon. But you see, like, I'm so happy now that I don't deal with cars. I only move equipment and machinery in our own equipment, you know. So it's much better. And I make pretty good money. So the other day I was comparing earnings, let's say, of a typical truck driver, long haul at 55 cents per mile, and what I'm making now. Like, I make more money, you know, compared to a company driver, where I would be away from home for 2-3 weeks. You know, you cannot go to a gym, you cannot eat properly because it will be all bad food, and you make less money. Like, what's the point, you know? I think that's a woodpecker. Yeah. You see that bright red under the wings? It was pretty far, but on top of that tree. And yeah, this is not a very good area either. It's all industrial, but downtown is not too far. See, like, you can probably see top of the, yeah, I mean the TV tower over there. So I'm not too far from downtown. Where shall I go? Maybe I should go towards that tower, because I've been sitting here probably 15 minutes and there's nothing. Tiny baby rabbit. Yeah, it's dead here as well. Holy moly, what's going on? There's a big hockey game around 6 o'clock tonight, because one of my passengers was saying that it's gonna start being busy around 4 downtown. And I'm sitting, so those lights over there, that's 9, and you see the blue sign says City Center. So that's 9th Avenue. So if I take that one, it'll take me downtown. And this is a very good area, but it's still a bit early. But I've been sitting here 15-20 minutes, nothing. So I'll probably just start driving. But I wanted to say something. Just my phone beeped and there was a text message, a response to my photography services online ad. Basically, the guy says tomorrow him and his girlfriend are going to the Glenmore Reservoir, and he says, I know it's going to be cold, but we'll be sitting on a bench, probably under a blanket, and he says, I wanna do like a candid shot so that the girlfriend does not realize that they're being photographed. Kind of like weird. So basically, he wants me to sneak around them and take some pictures without the girl noticing, and then he wants to show her these pictures so that, you know, kind of like a surprise, but a bit weird. I don't know. And he says, how much will you charge? And I look on the map, Glenmore Reservoir, from my place in Northeast, it's 30 kilometers or it's 30 minutes of driving. And he was saying, how much would you charge for about 5-10 minutes of photography? And I said, first off, it will take me 30 minutes to get there and then 30 minutes back. So I said, that's 1 hour just for driving, excluding the photo shoot. So basically, something like this, I should charge him probably for like 2 hours, right? Because then I get home, I have to look at the pictures, like how do I send it to him, you know? Maybe put him on a USB stick, I don't know, or he's okay just with email, but then it's going to be low resolution. Actually, no, I can use like a Google Drive and send it as an attachment, but still, you have to do some work at home after you come back, right? And so it's 2 hours. And my typical rate long time ago used to be like $60 an hour. And then I said, screw this, because, you know, cameras, lenses, everything is expensive. So I started charging $100 an hour. And of course, people that look online for a photographer, usually they're very cheap, you know? That's been my experience. Like one guy a couple of weeks ago wanted to hire me to photograph a baptism, you know, in the river when the weather was good. And I said, $150? I said, what's your budget? Oh, I don't have a budget. Okay, so I said, $150? What? I said, what, too much? Well, I thought it would be maybe like $80, you know. It's not gonna be, it's just for us, it's just a family. And again, it's somewhere, I have to drive somewhere. So it's, well, Bow River probably, right? So that's like 25 kilometers. I mean, not worth it, you know. I'd rather do Uber. But yeah, tomorrow gonna be cold, so which means that it should be a good day for Ubering, you know. But in the morning, I wanna go hiking, since it's gonna be cold for biking, since, you know, that's what I like doing Sunday morning. But I'll probably just grab my hiking poles and go for a long walk. Or maybe I should wait. I wanted to go, no, I don't want to drink beer, because I was thinking hiking like 7 kilometers to the nearby brewery near the airport, but then I won't be able to do Uber. Yeah, I'll have to research, see how busy it's gonna be tomorrow. So my last ride, I took a lady from my area to this dealership, see, SV Auto Group. And it's funny that right at the entrance there's a white Durango sitting. Same as mine. And I like this area because this is 32nd Avenue and Barlow Trail, so northeast. I like this area because there's a bunch of hotels here. So this Divya Sutra over here, then here there's a Sheraton, this one, and then there's another hotel on the other side, and there's a truck stop here on the other side, on the other side of 32nd Avenue. So maybe a trucker would want a taxi, you know, to go somewhere. And then there's a car rental place over there. Once I picked up somebody there, they returned the car, like that brown building. They returned the car and they needed a taxi to go to the airport. And there's a McDonald's behind that one. So and there's lots of shops and stores on 32nd Avenue, lots of restaurants. So time now is 11:13. I just got out of an Indian restaurant where I had some free lunch, thanks to this beautiful baby over here. So from 5 a.m. until 1 p.m. That's what I was Ubering and lifting. I made $200, including 2 tips. I really love driving this car. I really think I should, drive it myself more compared to renting it out, where people don't appreciate it at all. And so I made those stickers myself. They're slightly bigger than normal, and that's probably the best feature of this vehicle. Well, I'm back home after Ubering on Saturday, and finally I decided to test my Boya mics that my friend, freight broker, gifted to me. So see, like this little thing in here, you just plug it into the back of of my iMac, but because this is USB and I only have USB-C, so I had to use this little adapter, but it works. So once this thing is inside this case, what? I guess it's on. See, like, oh, okay. The one thing I haven't figured out yet is how to deal with noise cancellation, because there's like 3 settings for noise cancellation, and these buttons. So that's on, off, and that one is noise cancellation. So if you hold it for a couple of seconds, see, now it's green or blue. So if I touch the noise cancellation, you can get either green, which I think means there's no noise cancellation, or blue, but there should be like more than one setting. Okay, you see, like, yeah, each time you press it changes color, but if I want to turn it off, oh, it doesn't want to turn off. What the heck? Oh, it's because I'm pushing on the noise cancellation, of course. Yeah, okay, so basically if you hold this button for a couple of seconds, then the light disappears. And this thing goes, wait, what? Yeah, see, you can close it, like, very nice looking thing. So basically that's your charger, and that's how, when you, it's a charger and it's your storage device basically for these mics, and then you just connect that little base in the back. And I tested it. It sounds definitely much better than when I use my computer. So from now on, whenever I'm using my iMac, I'll be using these Boya mics. So hopefully you guys will be more satisfied. And last but not least, probably is going to be a controversial topic, because for some reason my American viewers really don't appreciate any intake on American politics. So basically there'll be comments like, go back to Russia, or keep your nose in Canada, even though, if I remember asking, I think I was doing like a live show or something on YouTube, and I was asking people, is it okay for you to have an opinion about the leadership of a foreign country? So let's say you're American. Are you allowed to have an opinion about the president of China? And everybody said, yeah, of course. But when a Canadian says something about US, right away everybody's like having a heart attack. But anyway, I just wanted to mention something that's been bothering me. I've been spending 50% of my time in the States, right? When I was a trucker, I love US because roads are better. The freeway system, right? Everything is cheaper.
great country, right? Great variety of scenery. I love Montana. I love Texas. And so when I'm home, I still have now. Uh, I have a subscription to Sirius XM satellite radio, and I often listen to to news. And of course, we there is one station, one news station from Canada. I think it's CBC, like maybe a couple of radio stations, but the rest it's all American. And so I'm fully in the know of what's happening in the States because I'm always listening to news from US. And from what I've been seeing so far, it looks like uh, the States is slowly turning towards it's kind of like reminds me, like Soviet Union or current Russia. You have one guy in power, and the Senate is so scared of him that that guy makes all the decisions, right? So it's a dictatorship. And um, he was saying, he was accusing Democrats of weaponizing the Department of Justice. But that's exactly what he is doing himself, right? He's sending messages to Bondi, telling her what to do, who to prosecute. No, you know what? No, it's not current Russia. What this is looking like is a Russia under Stalin. When we had Stalin, he was really kind of like a dictator, and he was sending to prison or disappearing everybody who was not, with him on the topic. So we had these. It was called Черный Воронок, kind of like a black crow. That was the kind of like a code name for a van. It was all black. It would show up at night and get people, and nobody would ever see them again. And it happened after the war, before the war, Second World War. So, and before the Second World War, and one of the reasons why Germans were advancing so fast is because this idiot Stalin, he killed, arrested, or had them disappear most of the top elite Russian army generals, because he was so afraid that somebody will try to take his place. And so to me, that's what, since I know my history, right? I know Russian history. I know that horror of what was happening when they're saying 20 million, more than, like, the amount of people he sent to concentration camps was more than the number of people killed during the Second World War. So basically it was peace and people were disappearing. And so now you have, I was just watching a video about ICE with those stupid masks, like grabbing people from cars. And then you have National Guard invading American cities. I don't know what's next. I'm telling you, like, if somebody is interested or somebody does not believe me, just read up on Russia under Stalin, and you will see some really striking similarities. And then, of course, millions of Americans are going to lose the health care. The premiums are going to double. I mean, it's just nuts. And of course, all his tariffs that he's imposing, they don't help retail pricing either, because most companies will pass those tariffs to the consumer. And so prices are rising. People are losing jobs, like federal workers, right? Army is in the cities. ICE is on the loose. Congress is nowhere to be seen. All the power is with one man. That's like, I'm telling you, that's like Stalinism, but with a slight American twist. So to conclude, I'm glad that I'm Canadian and that I don't live in the States. Thanks for watching.